So happy to be back with you for a new week of Quite Frankly. It's you, it's me, it's the moon. 6:59 p.m., depending on where you look, on the East Coast, and it is the 9th day of September 2024. I'm just going to put this out. First and foremost, we just had a last-minute cancellation with Roger Stone. He is a little bit of a touch of laryngitis, doing a lot of talking, doing a lot of shows, and that is just the disadvantage of being a nighttime show. You're getting people who already had an entire day of talking under their belt. But you know what? We're going to roll with it because I have plenty that I was going to discuss with Roger and our friend Jeremy that I'm going to reintroduce in just a second. I have plenty that we were going to discuss there that could be turned right around on you guys and gals. There's also some headlines. There's plenty of calls that could be taken, and I know that we'll learn something. If not, we'll have a laugh. Welcome back to the show, Jeremy Ryan Slate. How the hell you been, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing all right. I'm a little down today. Darth Vader died not too long ago, so
I know.
It's a rough day for me.
I know. James Earl Jones, he's died at age 93.
It's a good run.
Very good run. The guy's, listen, it's just one of those, that's one of the ones that hurt.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, man. That's the end of it, you know?
He's just kind of like eternally young, though. Like, you look at him and you're just like, man, the guy's skin is perfect. Like, it's incredible.
As I was told before, black don't crack. That's what I was told that many times before. But I'll tell you, man, this it's almost like as a Yankee fan growing up in the 90s or in early 2000s, you just get spoiled knowing that Mariano Rivera's around. Mm-hmm. James Earl Jones is one of those guys who he was always out there, he was always doing something interesting, and he was always the same age.
Yeah.
You know? So to hear that he's gone, it's just one of those things that again marks the time. Like,
and he played some pretty like iconic characters. You know, he's Mufasa, he's Darth Vader, he's the father from Coming to America. Like, he's played some pretty iconic characters, man.
Yes, I know. King Joffer,
something like that.
Just a lot of good stuff. We in last June, Charlie Robinson and I read Shoeless Joe, mm-hmm. which is the source material for Field of Dreams. And it was just so great because it was one of those things where there's a little bit of a difference between Field of Dreams, the movie, and the book. But just like with Game of Thrones, for as long as it was good, the casting was done so well that you can only see these people in the book. You can only see the movie in the book, and it mirrors each other. And that's just every opening day, the James Earl Jones speech about baseball there to mark the time. That'll always be something I like to play. Only I like playing the Vince Scully version of that. It's beautiful. It really is. But it's going to be I don't know, a world without James Earl Jones. We're just going to have to accept it.
Yeah. Darth Vader's gone, man.
Well, listen, I will say this. He's a trooper. You tip your cap to him. But when they did Rogue One, when Disney did Rogue One and they brought Vader back and they had James Earl Jones actually do the lines, you can tell it was an old man's voice.
Yeah.
It wasn't as...
It wasn't as spry. It didn't have that crack to it. I thought they were going to try and use AI or something, but I guess since was still alive at the time, they can do it.
They can now.
Yeah.
They
did that with Carrie Fisher. That was weird.
That didn't work too much.
Yeah.
I appreciated it was one of those things where for the storytelling, Rogue One was the best. I think the best thing that they did film-wise. Disney, after buying the property, I really liked Rogue One, and because of the story they were trying to tell, I suspended disbelief. You know, there was a couple of angles with Peter Cushing, Tarkin. There's a couple of angles with the Peter Cushing CGI.
He didn't feel real. He felt like still like hyper animated, like when you saw him.
Some angles were better than others. Like when they utilized shadow to kind of take all of the edge. You don't want to put the face under the microscope or else you can see the imperfections.
Yeah.
They did him a lot better, I believe. But I just appreciated them going to these characters for the sake of the story. That even when Carrie Fisher popped up at the end of Rogue One, I said, okay, she looks like a little cartoonish, but I get it.
Yeah.
And it was just a perfect right into New Hope. It was a perfect. I thought it was
I
good.
still think Revenge of the Sith is still my favorite one of the new ones they came out with. They're not as good as the old ones, but I think Revenge of the Sith is my favorite.
Yeah, but you can't put that in the same camp as Disney. It's still a Lucas property at that point.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. Episode 3 is incredible. Incredible, but
it's dark. I think that's the interesting thing about it. And I think for a lot of people, they want a hero movie only to have like the hero aspects, right? But I think it's really interesting to kind of see the dark characteristics of a character and see how they can go that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, your interest is always, well, you have a very well-known interest in ancient history and all that. What's your favorite movie that covers those eras of the past? Is like Gladiator, has to be up there. Alexander.
Yeah, I was obsessed with Alexander the Great long before I was into Rome, and that movie, it's pretty historically accurate. It's one of those journeys that, like, I compare this to a lot of albums where an album like takes you someplace because it's so long. I have the extreme cut, I think, and it's almost like 4 hours. That's a really, really good movie if you truly want to understand the life of Alexander the Great. It's a very well done movie by Oliver Stone.
What about like Troy? What do you think about Troy?
Troy was interesting and it was fun, but they changed a lot of things and they oil up Brad Pitt and all that kind of stuff. So it's like an interesting movie. Trying to think of which the Revenge of the Revenge of the Titans, was that the one? That one was really, really good. The was when they kind of first started doing better with like the special effects and
Clash
stuff.
of the Titans.
Clash of the Titans, the newer one.
Yeah,
that one was really good with the. Because some of these, like
Sam Worthington.
Yeah, some of these you have to drop that you care a lot about the storyline and just enjoy the movie. So I think to me they did a good job just creating a good film.
The Clash of the Titans with Sam Worthington was actually my favorite Kraken. That the people who did the film, especially the CGI and everything, they did a great job of rendering something that really showed immense size.
Yeah,
and it actually made me feel like, oh damn. And then when of course he shows Medusa's head to that Kraken and turns this gigantic thing into a essentially a mountain unto itself, that was great. I don't even remember Wrath of the Titans. That came out second.
Yeah, I meant the original, the Clash of the Titans, not the one from the 60s. I think like this was like a remake of that one.
Yeah.
But I think the thing you have to consider, my wife and I had our 5-year-old watch the first Harry Potter movie the other day, which it's, I don't know, been like 20 years since I've seen that movie. And you look at it now and you realize the special effects are really good for the time period when it was done. I think a lot of those movies are similar because where we are now, they've kind of jumped 50 years ahead in terms of like what they're doing with what they can do with these special effects. So it's pretty incredible to see kind of at the beginning of that, CGI type era, what they were doing and what can be done.
There's still 1993 in Jurassic Park. That
was like animatronics though, wasn't it? Weren't they using a lot of like machine electronics for that?
It was a combination, which is why it was so smartly done. But for example, that one scene when the all the power is out, the Tyrannosaurus Rex finally gets out of the paddock and all that stuff, and just steps onto the road in the dark, in the rain. It's shit like that. That's what I'm saying. Perfect. Low light. It still looks incredible to this day. Now, if you look at the other scene where they're getting into the park for the first time and they come upon the Brachiosaurus. Mm-hmm. You take a look at that in the sunlight. It's like, okay, I can see it's a little cartoony here, but you know what? The mixing of the practical and everything else. By the time that they got to Jurassic World, we went to go see it just for the hell of it, and it opens up. The movie I knew we were in for shit. The movie opened up, and the first thing you saw was like a sparrow, 21st century sparrow in your backyard.
Yeah. Lands
on the front yard of these people's houses before they go to this park. The sparrow is CGI.
Wow.
I said, they animated a sparrow. What the hell? I mean, if you have to lean that hard into it, I knew that the rest of it was just going to be nonsense, and it was the acting, the whole script sucked. But anyway,
it was like the second Expendables movie. Like the first one was like okay, and it was somewhat believable. You see the second one, and they blow up the entire world like 3 minutes in, and you're kind of like, okay, there is way too much action in this movie. It's not going to be very good.
I don't think I saw anything after the second. There's like 4 or 5 Expendables.
Is there?
Right?
I didn't finish the second one because I'm like, this is ridiculous. We rented it.
I think I might have seen the second one. My wife and I just.
It's when you used to rent movies, by the way.
The best, the best. Now you just put your area code in on whatever the hell it is in Amazon or I don't know. I used to love it. You know, I saw somebody. It might just been a meme or something, but I would have definitely given it a sniff. There was this like a Yankee candle. It might be a fake Yankee candle that says Blockbuster Carpets. So it's like a candle. I saw this picture of it, a candle that
the scent is Blockbuster Carpets?
It's supposed to be the carpets and candy of a Blockbuster.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah,
Blockbuster, like as a concept, is who rents a movie for 7 days? That's what I never understood. Like, how many times are you watching this darn thing? Like, I never understood that concept.
Well, that's only for an old one. I mean, what did you pay extra for that? They wouldn't.
No, like, so I mean, maybe my Blockbuster was weird. I'm in a small town. Like, you would rent them, and you would be renting them for a week, and it just seemed like obnoxious.
That must have been an old release then. It doesn't in over here in this place when we had we used to have a Blockbuster. If it was a new release, you weren't getting that for more than 48 hours.
Wow.
Like you had enough for a weekend. If you took it out on a Friday, you got to bring it back on a Sunday night, early Monday morning latest. But you can get away with a 5-day rental if it's something that was older and probably not in high demand. But they wanted to turn that thing over quick. You're never getting anything new for more than 2 days.
Yeah.
But
well, we used to call it lackluster video.
Yeah. Well, we had a big one, so there's a lot of shit in there. I never understood. The one thing I never did was rent a whole gaming console.
You could do that. I rented the games. I remember renting like Sega Genesis games back in the day.
Yeah, you can rent like Super Nintendo. You can rent Sega Genesis for as long as you have the games and stuff. And I guess that's something cool if you don't have it, and it's an easier way to get a taste of it. But my oh my. Well, listen, I'm glad that you're here, though, man.
I'm glad I'm here, too. I just got a text from Stone, by the way. He says when he gets his voice back, he'll give us the inside track on Gerald Ford.
The inside track on Gerald Ford?
Yes.
I got so many other things to ask him, too. What I really wanted to ask him tonight was about, to start it off, I wanted to get insight into the relationship between Eisenhower and Nixon. There's so much that is published on that about how, there was a warm relationship, there was a cordial one, but it wasn't very personal. There's more that goes, Eisenhower just thought that he was stuffy and he needed to have that kind of Californian vote whipping presence there because Eisenhower really didn't, he lived all over the world and shit like that, stationed all over the place. He didn't have a place to call like home in the continuous 48.
Sure.
So I didn't know where the hell that relationship really was and how it left off. And that would be a precursor to asking the question about the military-industrial complex. It was President Eisenhower, for all the things that people say about him that kind of run the gamut. He was the one that gave the deep state its first name.
Yes.
He
had a different name for it in the beginning, didn't it? Wasn't it the military-industrial something else complex?
Yeah. Well, it became the military-industrial complex to us.
Yeah.
And that's in a farewell address. And so I always wondered, and I never seen anybody publish anything about it. Maybe I'm not reading the right things. But how much of that understanding of what was going on and where the country was heading, especially how so much power was being invested in that, I don't know, there's autonomous, lacking in oversight part of the system. How much did Nixon know about that? And because if he was even in any way, shape, or form close, even in a working relationship with Eisenhower, then he was there to see the birth of something that was going to take him out down the road.
Yes.
Because now the next presidency was by fire. It was taken out, and then he was ousted through bureaucratic sabotage, Nixon. So I just wonder if he ever connected, saw the correlation between all of that stuff, starting with his time with Eisenhower.
Well, I was talking to Tony Arterburn this morning, Wise Wolf Gold, and he's one of your sponsors, isn't he? Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was telling me that if you ever look at, I guess there's a book on it too, but if you ever look at Oliver Stone's Nixon, he said there's like a lot of like code words that are used in that movie that are things that are actually related to like intelligence operations and things related to Nixon. There was one he had mentioned this morning that was related to a CIA operation as well. So there's a lot of things related to Nixon, related to the intelligence agency, which is interesting too, because you almost wonder, was he running the Leviathan and eventually it ate him? Do you know what I mean? Like, because it was so aggressively done. And so, because there was the one conversation, I wrote this down so I don't forget what it was. This guy's name. Where it's the recording where Nixon's talking to Bob Haldeman, and they're saying the investigation is going in the direction we don't want, because apparently, like, the funding had come through CREEP, which is the Campaign for Re-election of the President, but it was actually related to two middlemen that had funded CREEP, and that's where the funny quote comes from, where he says it ran through Ken Dahlberg and this Mexican lawyer, and Nixon goes, "Who the hell is Ken Dahlberg?" And apparently it was something related to the two intelligence agencies, actually the CIA and the FBI. So when Nixon doesn't want to look into this, he doesn't want to look into the intelligence agencies, but his lawyers, I guess, misunderstood the whole thing and kind of ran downhill on it, and that was actually one of the big things that ends up taking him out. So I think there's so much related to this.
Yeah, and I really don't. I don't know too much.
Yeah.
And I just got really interested in it all because, the farther you go back, the more you realize that there is more to say about everything. And when it comes to now presidential ousters, like it's happening all around us all the time. Yeah. We've seen presidents like Trump that got through their first term, survived their first term. But, I mean, you can't say that it wasn't paralyzed by one contrived scandal over another, something that maybe in past generations of American history it would have actually worked a lot more efficiently because there was less variety in media, especially that. I mean, so much of what was going on with Russiagate was it was very hard for them to push that through like they would have in the 70s. Yeah, because Russiagate was picked apart at every turn by sleuths on the internet, and we learned a lot then too. And now we got this eye for that kind of recognition of those patterns, and you start going back through time. Like I remember around 2017, 2018, when all this stuff was going on in the FBI with Russia and Crossfire Hurricane and the disappearance of the phones and all this stuff, the evidence that should have been preserved, that what was gone, and things getting tied up in bureaucratic process and people making statements. Dianne Feinstein blaming a head cold on why she leaked the Glenn Simpson testimony so all the homework could get out there and everybody can study and get their alibis straight. Shit like that. It even brought me back to like when I was reading that book on Senator Joe McCarthy, blacklisted by history. And you start seeing all the parallels, the same old tricks of the trade that were going on in the 1950s.
Well, that's the scary thing about history, man. It's like all the parallels you see. And I think the interesting thing is for a lot of us, I think if you get good at anything, you have to get good at pattern recognition, because if you can start to recognize patterns, you can start to predict what's going to happen next. And I think, that is the number one skill you can learn is pattern recognition when it comes to any of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, here's a pattern for you. This is a physical pattern. Now, you remember the last time you were on, we were talking, was it right before the debate? The dementia debate. Were you on right before the dementia debate?
I was on before the dementia debate.
Okay. Yeah, because then you and I spoke on your show after the fact.
Yes, we did the post game on my show.
And we were talking about, us coming from, personal training, all that other stuff that we are very, very keen on analyzing human movement, body language, everything. I don't know what the hell is wrong with Bill. There's a lot wrong with Bill de Blasio, but he put this out. It has no caption whatsoever. It's him sitting in front of a piece of pizza, Now, remember, he's out there stumping for Kamala Harris right now, pretending to be Italian. His first name is actually Wilhelm. He's in front of a piece of pizza, and he's got Baker's coconut shredded coconut, a bag of shredded coconut in front of him. And he's going to pour it out onto the pizza and eat it with no context whatsoever. But I want you just to analyze just him physically doing this. There's something so wrong with him.
Did he fall out of a coconut tree?
He could have. Here he is.
Is he like in the pizza place?
What is he? He's tapping and squeezing and trying to hit the coconut out of the bag like a 5-year-old would.
Did he show up to the pizza place with the coconut? Like, how did he get that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, don't eat it.
He's on a mission though, and then he eats.
Oh, he's gonna. Oh,
and then
the animal.
He eats it from the crust to the back.
Oh, what an animal!
He's an absolute animal.
Warren Wilhelm Jr.
Look at that. He's what the hell was that?
He's an animal.
It's just the. it was just the. Like he almost. I don't know the hands. The lack of hand coordination. He struggled with that bag of shredded coconut. It was so weird.
I think it's because the hole wasn't big enough in the bag. You know what I mean? And you're like trying to jiggle it out, and it's not really working out for you.
So then open it up and come. What the hell's?
I think he was already committed, man. So it's like you just got to go with it and see what happens.
Yeah, the only thing that was missing was like an adult comes into frame and opens it up for him and does it like he's a child, because he just looked like, I don't know.
Was there any caption whatsoever with that video?
No. Let me look into the comments.
Like,
now that I've got your attention, he said, let's focus on what really matters, electing Kamala Harris.
Selecting Kamala Harris.
It would be the first election she ever won. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's just a...
Well, I guess the thing she's got going for her is she wouldn't be the first unelected president, right?
Right.
Because we were talking about Ford before, and that's a really, really weird one.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing is, and we'll just get this one started. I know, it's still the pre-show. Keep that in mind, Ford, because he also gave us that insight into how the first female president might come to be. And we'll do that in just a second, ladies and gentlemen. Please share the show wherever you're watching it, whether it's live or on demand. Hit the like button. Send it out. Yes, it is true. It's just me, Jeremy Ryan Slate, which is a wonderful night of broadcast as it is. But yeah, we were supposed to have Roger Stone on tonight. That'll happen. We'll figure something out for perhaps later in the month in October. And maybe it'll be the time will be even better than it would have been tonight. But for the time being, we have plenty to give to you, and the lines will be open. So don't go anywhere. We're about to get started.
Go ahead, Watchtower.
This is the Joker speaking. You're tuned in, quite frankly. When you see the ants, remove your pants.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
What's going on? Music. Anyway, sometimes things don't play when you press play. Welcome to the show. Here joined at the studio in Westchester, New York, with Jeremy Ryan Slate. We're just hanging out. Oh, I know that we still have another week left of summer, but no, we don't. It's the fall. Don't you agree?
It happened so fast too, because it went from, I know, like when I was up here last time, my air conditioning was broken in my car, which I've had fixed, and I was sweating my butt off. And then it went from that to, it got cold, like instantly. Like we had to have our heat on last night. Like, what the heck happened, man?
I know. And it was actually kind of cold inside the house today. Outside, it was about 10 to 15 degrees warmer. But inside, oh man, I'll tell you, I already told my wife I'm taking the air conditioners out next week.
I did that last week, and I spent yesterday chopping firewood. I chopped so much firewood, my hands hurt this morning.
Oh, I feel like it happened on September 2nd. It just happened.
It makes sense.
Quick.
Around there.
So they just know. They take the cues. Okay, so you were talking about Ford.
Yeah.
There's plenty to be said, the seen and the unseen, because I've had plenty of conversations about Gerald Ford with people like Kathy O'Brien. But yeah, even the official story of Gerald Ford seems a lot of people are saddled with VPs that they don't actually want, but they just got to take for one reason or another. And here he is. He has the presidency fall into his lap. And I don't know. What about him was intriguing enough that you wanted to ask Stone about in particular?
Well, there's a lot of weird connections with him. And first of all, he's the only... So he's elected to political office, but he's never actually elected to be president. So I find that to be kind of strange. But also, he's one of the sixth people on the Warren Commission as well, which so it's kind of a strange connection. So he's on the Warren Commission in 63, and then you have in 73 he becomes vice president. But if you understand the background is a little bit weird too. So you have Ford is Gerald Ford is the minority leader in the House of Representatives. Spiro Agnew is Nixon's vice president. And there's a lot of talk at the end of Nixon's first term if he's going to dump Agnew or if he's going to pick somebody else, but he ends up keeping Agnew. And then not far, I think it's like a year into the next term, Agnew gets picked up, I think, in December of that year for some sort of a tax issue. So he has to step down from office. So they have to get a replacement VP. They end up taking the House minority leader at that time, who's Gerald Ford. And then in 74 is when Nixon ends up leaving office due to Watergate. So then what happens is the vice president, Gerald Ford, becomes president. So that's a really strange sequence. And have you ever looked at the election of 1972?
No.
It's, I forget the exact number, but it's the Democratic candidate only gets 17 electoral votes. And Nixon gets, I think, almost 61% of the popular vote. It's one of the largest electoral wins in history. It's literally a landslide. So you have this landslide candidate that's just taken out, and they're done with him in less than 2 years in his re-election campaign. So it's a very, very wild situation, and you end up with an unelected president, Gerald Ford, that doesn't run for re-election.
Yeah, that's what I've. That was part of it. That was part of my initial questions I had when we did that episode with Robert Phoenix. It's just I never really even knew about the at least the electoral popularity of Richard Nixon.
Nixon was remarkably popular.
I didn't know any of that stuff.
It was 17 electoral votes is all the Democratic candidates had. So he had like 4 something, which 480 or something like that.
Just one of those things, man. You grow up, depending on what era you're in. All the Richard Nixon, there's nothing about him in my elementary schooling except he was the poster child for government corruption. And to that point, the only one that was going to be impeached, he wasn't actually impeached. Mm-hmm. He was going to be. He figured resign before that all shit started happening. So, I mean, I just figured, hey, let's fill in some gaps here. And there's plenty of things to be said on the other side, like criticisms. I wanted to talk about Watergate in particular.
Yeah.
Because it's not to say that any president, whether he was popular or unpopular, was always going to make decisions, especially in the era of the imperial presidency, which is what we have rise up in the early 20th century with, once we start getting involved in the Philippines and the Caribbean and all that stuff. We're doing things that the expansionism, all that shit. I mean, that's just the presidency in the 20th century becomes something that is ungodly compared to what it was supposed to be. And
well, your turning point on that is very much after Teddy Roosevelt. That's kind of your point there. Is Woodrow Wilson is where everything changes, and it's interesting historically too, because Roosevelt wants to run, but the Republican Party doesn't want him to run, and that's why he ends up running as the third party, Bull Moose Party, and he gets a significant number of votes, and that's the only reason Woodrow Wilson wins. Where if the Republican Party's united, Wilson doesn't win. And Wilson, I know Glenn Beck's talked about him for years. Wilson is possibly the worst president America's ever had for some of the things that he did. One being the 17th Amendment happens, the Federal Reserve happens, we get into World War I during his time, and he runs under the slogan, "He kept us out of war," for his re-election campaign. So Wilson is to me, it's kind of that teetering point where everything changes, because you don't have that far after that you have FDR, which, if you want to say imperial presidency, that's, we almost had a king, is literally what happened there. So to me, that's where the republic changes dramatically. And that's frankly one of the reasons I've been talking about fall of an empire so much, because if you want to look at it, that is when America ceases to be a republic, around 1913, 1914. Wilson is pivotal.
I would take it a little bit farther back. I would say the Civil War, that would be really a big thing where we start talking about the emergence of the proposition nation myth with, versus what a federal republic would have been if we kept up with that. But you bring up something else there too. When we're talking about Richard Nixon and how some people just aren't afforded the ability sometimes to really just get into and critique what was good and what was bad. I wanted to focus in on Watergate because here is the removal of a president from office at the height of his popularity prior to, like you were saying, and we just saw, I don't know, we've seen assassinations, we've seen assassination attempts, we've seen, the entire Trump first term. There was several attempts in there to not only hamstring him, but 2 impeachments, even though one came after he was out of office. But, there's all these overtures to make sure he can't run again. Just over in July, when he was shot at, later on in the week, they pulled a switcheroo with the other one who's now just rotting on the beach like Bernie Lomax. And you have this. There's so many weird things going on that have nothing to do with any kind of democratic process, prescribed or just traditional, things, just traditions we settle on. But I wanted to look into, for example, like 1971. That's something where, outside of wanting to understand what happened with Watergate, that doesn't mean that there's other things that someone like Nixon did that maybe didn't have negative repercussions. Some people say that taking the country off the gold standard, it was one of the worst things that ever happened. Others have told me that, listen, the real villain in the precious metals wars was FDR. He was the one that took it away from people.
Yes.
Nixon was just trying to make sure that other countries around the world who were denominating in dollars weren't taking all of our gold after the Marshall Plan and the rebuilding of this and that. Just people just want to cash out and take our gold.
Yeah, I never understood the reason for doing that. Like, why would, unless you had nefarious reasons for doing it, why would you take money off being backed from something? I don't quite understand that theory.
I know. And I said, like I said, the stated reasons were to defend against inflation, because people around the world who are denominating in American dollars, they can redeem it for gold and take our bullion and all that shit. Either way, there's people on both sides of that. I wanted to know about it. Now that you're here and we don't have Roger, I wonder, in a more ancient sense, you think about the American dollar, everybody thinks about the fiat. They think about the paper in their pocket. But in like ancient Rome, what does inflation look like in Rome when everything that I think of is coinage? Is it, do they just use lesser metals, or are they still backed by gold somewhere else? What?
So it's more in your face too, which I think is really interesting, because I think inflation for us, we don't experience inflation. We just experience the results of it, right? Like, we don't see the actions that cause inflation other than military spending and stuff, but we don't quite understand. a lot of times it's ones and zeros in a computer, right? I think our government likes to call it quantitative easing. It's a nice way of saying we printed a whole bunch of money. And I think when you look at Rome, money was more tactile. It was something you were holding. It was something that was be handed person to person. And when Augustus creates the first monetary system of the empire, which is going to be a little bit different than what's done in the Republic, he does this three monetary system. The first being gold, then silver, and then bronze, which is very interesting if you want to compare it to your Olympic medals. But these are the three main metals everything's based on. Gold would be the most valuable, so it's not used as often. Silver would be typically what most people are trading in. The poorer people would be trading in bronze, but you would see most military pay and things are done in silver. So what ends up happening in the 3rd century is because you have the empire shifts dramatically where generals are basically coming to power because they have the best army. Well, they need more troops to fuel that army, and they need more money to pay that army. So if they have a limited amount of funds, because the way Rome used to make its money was by conquering other territories. So if they conquered a territory and took their wealth, they would expand that way. Now, since they don't have money coming in that same way, they have to kind of eat themselves, if that makes sense. So what they're doing is taking that silver and they're adding other denominations of metal to it.
Like copper,
all sorts of things. So what ends up happening is by 270 AD, so over this like 100-year period, the silver coin is only 4% pure silver. The rest of it is all other different sorts of types of metals. So what ends up happening is it fuels a black market, first of all, because people want to just trade for things and what they're actually worth. And it also fuels inflation because people stop accepting in the market what the value for something should be. They demand more. The thing that happens as well is people start hoarding gold. So gold actually goes out of circulation because people are sitting on it. So this creates 15,000% inflation by 284. So if you want to look at inflation, like that's how you really create it. Now, I think the thing that's really interesting, and I was reading a book recently, get to the title of it so I'm not misquoting it here. I'm always reading a lot of different Rome books because I just have no life except for reading Rome books.
Good for you.
Oh, dude. What is this one called? The Roman Empire in Crisis by Paul Pearson. And he talks about Constantine, who's the first, I guess what you would say, Christian emperor, though it's not a Christian empire until 370, but he's emperor in 312 after a battle called Milvian Bridge. But if you ask people in his time period, what did they most like Constantine for? It wouldn't be anything to do with religion or state control. It would actually be because of money. Because the thing that's very interesting about Constantine is in somewhere around 314 or 315, because our calendar's changed a bit. It's not exactly the same as theirs. He mints less than 100 gold coins in a city called Trier in Germany. And then what he'll end up doing is they start repossessing a lot of the gold from pagan temples now, since the empire's religiously changing. Any territories they're conquering, they're taking their gold, and he starts minting coins every single year. So by the time he dies in the 330s, they're now fully on a gold standard. Now, that's in the Eastern Empire, not the Western Empire. The Eastern Empire will eventually become the Byzantine Empire. Mm-hmm. But that coin is going to last till about the year 1000 without inflation, a 24-karat gold coin.
Wow.
And it's
700 years of stability.
700 years of stability. And because people often say, well, why did the East survive? Well, one part of it doesn't have barbarian invasions because it's harder to attack. It has the richer tax base, but the gold standard to me is the big missing piece because they have a currency which is acceptable. Now, the problem you have, as I mentioned, people were hoarding gold previously. So how do you handle that? Constantine starts demanding that gold no longer be tied to the exchange of other currencies, meaning it used to be 30 sesterci, which are the gold or the silver coin, to one gold coin. Well, he unties them, so there's not an exact exchange rate. But he also starts having taxes be required to be paid in gold, so he's forcing gold into usage, and that's a really big deal. Now, the thing I've considered with the U.S. is if we went to gold all at once, we'd probably collapse the system because we're just so far over our skis. That's why I find what Constantine did to be very interesting. I was just talking to Clint from Liberty Lockdown about this too, and he's like, I don't know if Constantine did this knowing that he was doing the right thing and moving to a gold standard. It was kind of just something he was doing as he was grabbing gold. But that gradualness, I think, makes it possible to change things over. Where I think if we were to do something too and say, okay, over the next 20 to 25 years, we're going to change what our money's backed by and have it actually backed up by gold or a precious metal, maybe that is something that's doable. Once again, I'm not an economist, but I think it's really interesting to see, how it's worked in the past.
I would love to hear somebody talk about that. As far as how that can be implemented.
Yeah.
Because you think about it from just a pedestrian standpoint, like when it comes to financials and economics, that's the standpoint I'm looking at. I look at this, I say, all right, I understand that I know the difference between currency and money. I understand that to give something that has no value, the currency, it has to be backed by something. It has to be redeemable, just so that there's something there. And I understand how essentially we're backed on not only some commodities like oil, which some of the Nixon era, petrodollar stuff has just gone away after 50 years. But at the same time, it's just a lot of just belief. And But if you were to tell me, all right, well, how do we switch back over? What are we going to do? You start mining gold and say, okay, now here's the rate that you can redeem it or whatever the hell. I wouldn't know the first thing. I understand the concept and I understand why it would be dangerous over time in an inflationary sense to have a system that is not tethered to something that is just so anchored in history and intrinsic value and all that stuff. On top of our spending practices.
Yes.
I understand that makes sense, but like you said, to make it be again, I would love to hear somebody tell us how you would start.
Well, I think if you did it, if the person who does it isn't going to be very well liked, because I think initially there's going to be some upheaval, and that's why I like how Constantine did it, which is over a period of about 20-ish years, so it gives people time to adjust. But I think the thing you have to look at with us, which is a little bit different, is we have a lot of financial tools that the Roman Empire and a lot of these didn't really have. We can just go in a computer and change the amount of something. So I think that's the real dangerous part about what we can do with money, which is what they couldn't do. What they physically held, they would have to change the purity of it, which is, something that we don't really concern ourselves with.
Okay, I have two pictures that just came in right now. Let me see where the hell it is.
I could see the reflection behind you. You're looking at coins.
Yeah. I got this. Just came in from. Let me see. John Carroll just said this. He said at the height of the Roman Empire in 117 A.D., the denarius.
Under Trajan.
The denarius was 90% silver. So here is what I have. So there's 117 A.D. Let me get out of the way here.
117 is an important year too, by the way, because as I mentioned, the major way that Rome brought wealth in is through conquest. Mm-hmm. And in this transition from Trajan to Hadrian after him, that's where Rome changes that, and they start just defending borders. So they do a lot more walls rather than expansion.
Yeah, that would have been great. Just stay there. Just stay there forever. But here's the other thing. There you go. So the denarius, about 117, right around here. And then to your point, there's a big drop-off down the line where it's the silver content is being debased,
and it's made worse too because one of the things that allows Rome to really expand is what's called the Roman climate optimum, which is about 200 BC to around 2 to 300 AD. It's kind of, there's not an exact year when it ends, but it just kind of eventually fades out. So what ends up happening is Egypt's the breadbasket of the empire in that time period. Every year, the Nile River will flood, and it makes the soil around it very rich, and that's where a lot of the grain to feed the empire is coming from. So after Marcus Aurelius, when he dies in the 180s, this starts to change, and the Nile stops flooding every single year. So grain prices start doubling and tripling and quadrupling, and Rome has a corn dole. They have a grain dole where they're basically feeding all the people in the empire. So now, not only is the military expanding, not only do they have trouble controlling the borders, but the cost of food is skyrocketing, and Rome, as an empire, is the largest purchaser of food in the known world at that point in time. So, once again, how do you have to pay for that? Well, you continue to debase your currency.
Yeah. Again, Well, I mean, there's another thing that we talk about a lot over here. We used to be we could be the bread basket of the world, but we're importing so much food when we should be feeding ourselves. You know, I'm watching this other thing here too. Do you ever watch any of Clarkson's Farm?
No.
Okay, so it's this Amazon series. Jeremy Clarkson. He's
The British guy?
Yeah, the British guy. Does all like the Formula One, like
Okay,
the
yeah,
cars,
that guy.
whatever.
Okay.
Well, for this particular series, it focuses in on a massive land purchase that he made in England, and he's set off to become a farmer. And it's really funny. And it's really interesting too, because here's this guy, he's pretty much a fish out of water. He's learning how to, you know, till and drill a field and lay down fertilizer and seeds, and, you know, how to bring your food to market. He brings on sheep to try to get into that business, then cows, and it's just full of foibles and mishaps along the way. But it's really interesting, especially getting a little bit of insight into post-Brexit life for everyday farmers, understanding what kind of subsidies came in for farmers. And after Brexit, you know, broke apart, you realize that there's so much subsidies that were lost that farmers are not they don't even pay themselves. They're barely getting by. Now, that's not I don't think to say, well, you got to go back. It's more so to say, you know, why the hell does it become so cumbersome?
Well, why could we do it before, but we can't do it now?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, somebody watching that would say, well, you know, join the EU again. Like, no. The real question is, why the hell is it that there is so much burden on the people who feed you? Mm-hmm. And I'm not even talking about give them money to do better. I'm talking about stop. Everybody needs the burden to be lifted. The taxation is just and this is why we resort to bringing in where otherwise prosperous countries that are fertile and can feed themselves end up buying tons of shit grain from all over the place. You know, importing steel from places when you have your own mines, but it just takes too much time, too much cost. It's a lot of big eye opener there too.
Well, even the fishing industry as well. I was talking. Do you know Chef Gruel? Chef Andrew Gruel? He's a really interesting guy if you get a chance to follow him. But he was talking about a lot of the offshore fishing that's done. We do the fishing in our waters, but then we'll bring it to other countries like China, where they'll actually cut it up and dice it up and do whatever, and then ship it back here again because it's cheaper to have the production done outside of the U.S. than actually do it here. It's all the red tape around some of this stuff is so interesting. A lot of this has to do with Chevron deference. Did you follow that case that not too long ago?
Yeah.
Everything's so heavily regulated in so many different ways with so many different agencies that we've actually made it hard to produce in a lot of ways, and we actually reward people that don't produce and penalize people that do produce. It's almost like a backwards system in many different ways.
It is. It's very backwards. But again, because the way that we've been so groomed over the years to view our relationship to government, especially the federal government, which should be absolutely insignificant to us.
Yeah.
Unless we're engaging in international trade, then the government is your collective bargaining agent on the international stage. I mean, they're the ones that go out there and strike up those rates and whatever. But here at home, most people will say, we've got to give more help to the family farm. Well, here's a great thing.
Deregulate it.
Deregulate it. Stop with the inheritance taxes where people have to, sell the farm just to pay for the taxes when when the patriarch and matriarch die. I mean, just the taxation in general. For everybody, it's not just like, oh, well, farmers should be treated differently. I don't want to see anybody.
Could we get away from that, though, I guess is the question. Because I know Trump has talked about this idea of, I'm going to get rid of income tax and raise tariffs. I guess the question is, how feasible is something like that? Because at the same time, we have a system that's built on it. Like, how can you get off of something like that?
It would have to be a very, very delicate sunset, because all of the people who are dependent on the government to eat, sleep, breathe, shit, everything. This is stuff that would have to be a way would have to be found to put this in this proper domain in the person's respective states. All of this was illegal. I mean, you can't just rip the Band-Aid off. Tens of millions would die.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about a mass die-off. It would be the same thing as an EMP going off if just all of a sudden everybody stopped getting their checks and all their whatever. There would have to be a sunset clause, though, and in doing so, you would bring political autonomy back to all the states. People would become more involved locally. You wouldn't be embarking on stupid ideas because you can steal from other states.
So how would you do that then? Would you say like, oh, if you're age blah blah blah, you get these programs. If you're age blah blah blah, you don't? Like, how would you? I guess how would you sunset that? Because I love the ideas. I could see how we could do it economically, but you're correct. Millions of people would die or suffer if we kind of just shut the water off.
Yeah.
So how do you sunset that?
That's the question. And I would say it wouldn't be impossible because you can look at age ranges and generations. You have to start there. Is it based on how much a person has put in over their lifetime? I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is literally like trying to quit heroin.
Yeah.
And I would love to see some of the greatest minds get together and tell us, hey, what would be some really good options where people's lives are preserved, and at the same time we are taking the fangs out of the federal government. We are empowering people where they are again. It's just that there's just we're talking about a system that has been built on top of the ruins of the old republic that is worth $2 trillion plus every time that they come up for a vote to fund it.
Yeah.
It is such an incredible amount of
It has to be
money.
like a cultural change though too, doesn't it? Because people have to desire to work. They have to desire to produce. They have to desire to even just take care of your neighbors. Like we've lost the extra pillar of society, which is community helping each other. You know what I mean? Like if you look at areas where hundreds of years ago, let's say that there's a tornado or an earthquake or whatever it might be, a lot of times it wasn't the government fixing that. It was people saying, okay, well, this is my community and I live here, or these are my friends, I'm going to take care of them. But we've lost that. We've lost the ability to just take and take care of our neighbor, and that's a cultural issue, man.
The other thing, and you're 100% right, and I've talked about this next part over the course of at least 10 years on this show, over 10 years, maybe 14. It's welfare in its current state. There's one thing to say, well, help your neighbor. Well,
You can't mandate that, though.
You can't mandate it, that's for sure. The church, people's churches, their parishes, that used to be a huge place where the poor is helped, everything. But when you think about how people are getting help, that even the poorest in this country eat very, very well. I mean, for a country where we have a lot of people who are living in poverty, we are also very, very fat. We're eating a lot. We're eating bad food as well.
Well, I think that's part of the problem is they're eating well, but they're eating terrible things because the terrible food is cheap and the good food is expensive.
Listen, the whole point is people aren't starving. Now, so people are getting help, but nobody understands where the help is coming from. When you're being helped by a neighbor, when somebody's watching your kids, if you have to go to work and you have nobody to help with the graveyard shift or something, or you're really down on your luck, you need to, if people are helping with groceries, when you are in a tight-knit community and you receive help from people, there is not only the need, the feeling of I don't want to overstay my welcome, I want to figure out the issue I have here, but there's also a real sense of gratitude. That these are the people who are helping me. When a faceless check shows up in the mail, and you get to cash that, and the only real time spent on contemplating where the money comes from and where it's going to continue to come from is being given to you by these very shallow race-bait, sex-based driven narratives on the television about people who are greedy and don't want to take care of the poor, this and that, and it just becomes an us versus them. It's just so dehumanizing, the entire thing. There's no impetus to get out of the system. They trap people because the second you start getting ahead, you lose all your subsidies.
Well, I guess that's the question too, because you look at something like Johnson's Great Society, and I think a lot of that's been the breakdown of the family, because a lot of these programs that we're talking about, if you get married, it takes away your eligibility. If you get to a certain income level, it takes away your eligibility. So many different things reward people for not actually contributing and not actually becoming part of the group. I guess is that part of getting off the money heroin here.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's unsustainable, and it wrecks human spirit and perspective. People should have. That's a wonderful thing. If you're in a tight spot and you get help from a friend or help from a neighbor, and it comes from that real good spot of, hey, we want to see you get back on your feet. We're here, whatever you need. Man, that in itself can be enough to turn shit around.
Well, even just karma, man. Like you think about, like, you want to do good for someone else because you hope good will happen to you. Like my neighbor was on vacation a couple weeks ago, and they had a bear rip off their garage, their shed door.
Damn.
So what did I do in between podcasts? I think I was actually talking to you that day. In between podcasts, I went out and I actually replaced their shed door, because you know what? That bear's going to smell their garbage and realize that theirs is gone. It's going to come get mine. So at the same time, it's also karma, because you want to create a good situation for others and hoping that a good situation flows back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, listen, there's a lot. Everybody. There's a lot for you to comment on. In the second half, here's a couple of things I'd like to ask you, because we're about to take a break. It's 7:55. Let's just take a break right now.
We've been on that long. We had nothing to talk about.
I know. We got this. We got the email about Roger having to postpone.
6:33.
At 6:33 around there. Jeremy's just getting in, and we said, well, shit. Okay, what are we going to talk about? The first hour is gone. Anyway, here's what I would like to ask you in the second hour. Just some suggestions. 1968. We're talking around that whole area. You're saying Great Society, a lot of things changing in the country, and of course, 1968 is the year of the big assassinations. And I just want to ask everybody, especially those of you who lived it, and those of you who didn't live it but have studied it. I always get this from people, Jeremy. I don't know if you've heard it too, but 1968 especially, out of those raging 60s. Oh, as bad as you think things are right now, you didn't live through the 60s.
I would ask them, have they met 2020 yet?
That's why I want to know. I want to know if that mindset has changed yet. It's by 2024.
Yeah.
Does anybody out there really think it's true that we lived through more dangerous times than right now? Because I can tell you a lot of problems there's a lot of problems and social upheaval during the 60s, but there's a lot of shit that they did not have that we were dealing with. I don't know. I might actually take the 60s over where we are right now. That's number one. Okay. Were you of the mindset that, hey, you think things are bad, but you didn't know the 60s? Are you still thinking that way? That's number one. Number two, tomorrow is the debate. You can call in and let us know what do you think we're going to get out of the Trump-Harris broadcast tomorrow night. I have a hard time calling it a debate, but I will for these talks. And I don't know. There's more. There's more I got to think about, but we'll get to that after the intermission. We're here with Jeremy Ryan Slate and you guys and gals right after this. Don't go anywhere. In fact, help me share the show and get more people watching in the second half than we had in the first. Be right back.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button. Thank you.
Quite frankly.
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 Quite frankly, guys.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly. So everybody watch. Quite frankly. With Frank. Quite frankly.
How dare you?
More over here from Jay Semo says, once again, a fascinating show. I'm going to check out Jeremy. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Jay.
Yes, the Jeremy Ryan Slate show always has great guests. works very efficiently. How do you batch record episodes? Like, do you do like 2 or 3 a day?
Some days, I don't know, man. I'm not as aggressive as I used to be with it in the past. Like, I have days where I do 5 interviews or stuff like that. It's more I'm just doing a couple interviews a week on things I really want to talk about, or, you know, like for example, it's like, oh, I want to talk about this cultural subject. You're great to kind of bring in to analyze something, or maybe I'll have somebody and I want to do a financial topic. I've gone less with, you know, like trying to get a bunch of guests versus like there's 10 people I really like and I keep bringing them back on because it's great conversations.
You know, I'm like that too.
It's easier.
I'm like that too.
Because you can go crazy, man, trying to like run everybody's schedule, make everything work, and then, you know, like guest cancels, and then life gets crazy, you know? Like,
yeah,
you know, tonight.
Well, listen, that's for me. I really enjoy it. I find a lot of interesting people, and I want to go into really new territories all the time. So when I find somebody, I finally make contact with them, and I get them on I love filling in the calendar. I love plugging in the guest calendar. It's a lot of fun for me, and because I make it like a game. So we'll see. But then to have those people that you love bringing back, because every time they come on, you're pretty much building on a serial of calls that you started a while back, and it almost it's a timeline that people can follow. It gets to be
easier to talk to them too. Like Hervoye Morich is one of my favorite. He's a really, really interesting guy. I've had you on a bunch of times. Richard Poe's been a really interesting guy. So I tend to bring the same guests back if I'm talking about different subjects.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. It really is. And from a host standpoint, man, like when you come on, absolutely. I mean, I didn't write this past hour.
We had no idea what we were talking about today. We just filled up an hour.
I just took, a couple of things that were going to be for Roger, and then we just filled it all in. But, if I have someone like Rich Barris on, or my buddy Jay who comes on tomorrow night, I know that it's going to be a very, very light day of writing for me. And
I always like when you have Jay Dyer on. He's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I had Jay and Tim on together last week.
Oh, wow.
And that was another night where, I needed about 4 or 5 really good questions there because the subject matter was very, very specific. But
that's one of those ones I'll download before I get on an airplane. I'm like, all right, I got a nice long flight. I'm going to learn about something.
Yes, especially if it's Jay Dyer or something, or even Timothy Gordon, you're gonna have to listen to it once or twice more to let it sink in. Some of that stuff gets really dense.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's what we have over on quitefrankly.tv. Let's see here in the gold pills. Braves Piano, thank you. Swickley says, one time I rented Mortal Kombat for Genesis at Blockbuster and switched labels with my Sonic cartridge. Fail.
Ooh, they caught you?
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Brewbark says, Trump's promise to build an American Iron Dome is to convince the MIC to end the wars. An American Iron Dome, huh? Well, the other Iron Dome is all American, too.
Yeah, we kind of own all of it anyway, or they own us. I don't know, vice versa.
Oh, that was another question I wanted to ask Roger about Nixon and Israel. He said eventually America's going to have to put America before Israel. I wanted to know under what circumstances.
Wasn't he big with opening up China too?
I think so.
It's interesting. He's kind of like a globalist type guy.
I asked that question of Robert Phoenix, and he gave a pretty, a positive answer to that, just being that Nixon can see that the world was changing, and if we didn't get in on getting, business struck up with the Chinese, then we'll be left behind while everybody else.
I think Kissinger was a huge part of that too. Kissinger's he's in a bunch of those groups, Trilateral Commission, all the fun ones.
Yeah, I know. There's not enough to be said about Kissinger. What else do we have? Sean Joe says it's going to be hard to top last week, Frank. What a great week of shows. Well, we're going to try our hardest. There's a lot. I mean, tomorrow night should be pretty fun, too. This one has been fantastic. The only thing that I am a little bummed about, because you can go watch it, but last year, I don't know how interested you are in it, but I was just curious about Aaron Rodgers' first game as a Jet.
Tonight.
It's right now. Now, last year, the Jets had the September 11th Monday night. It was a Monday, right? Wasn't it Monday night?
I think it was Monday Night Football, September 11th. Yeah, he runs out with the flag. He's like all jacked up.
And then three plays in, he's out for the year. Well, I was doing this show then too. I was like, damn it. Of course it's on a Monday night. I wanted to actually see. It just something is interesting. They're doing it again right now.
Well, I was here with you with Garrett Cole's first game back. Was last time I was in studio with you.
The first game back from the DL?
Yeah, it was the last time I was here.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that happened afterwards. Well, anyway, he's been decent since. He's had some good games.
Yeah.
Yankees just called up Dominguez. They finally did that.
Thank God.
All right, let's see here. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookies. Thank you, C. Blanche. Doug Simi, Music Man says, money, money, hanky panky, dragging the line. Oh, money was Tommy James?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, then there you have it. I know more than one. I knew more than one song. I didn't know it. Robert Sarnes, thank you. Doug Simi, who sends the ships, and 2 from Sentinel. Sentinel says, question for Roger Stone. He's not here.
We can write it down for him for next time.
Yes. The question was, we finally found out Deep Throat was a dude Nixon passed over for director of the FBI.
Mark Felt.
Why can't America figure out that the FBI and Russiagate is made up? And listen, this is why I initially said, can somebody, let's just jump into Watergate. Forget about even just the Nixon presidency at large. It did get into larger, more generalized talks about who Nixon was last time we did this. But I was, no president is perfect, but there's got to be something very strikingly similar about their ouster at this point. Everybody has
let's look at Bob Woodward, who's the one that Felt was talking to. The guy had no reporting experience, and he breaks one of the biggest stories in history. How does that make any sense? Like who is this guy really? Like, is he somebody's handler? Is he handled by someone? It just doesn't make any sense. He seems like he's an intelligence asset.
It does, and I saw that much with the Tucker Carlson interview that he did, and that's actually that was an old clip from Joe Rogan, just breaking that down from a standpoint of what's the possibility of this happening in the media, the newbie. That's straight out of that right there is straight out of House of Cards. I've been
the Zoe character, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, I was talking about this on the Sunday stream. Again, House of Cards comes up every once in a while because we talk about how it all really might work outside of how much of it is really murder. So it's hard to murder the most popular people, but we talk about
not if you're friends with the Clintons.
Yeah,
everybody dies if you're friends with the Clintons.
Just take less trains, planes, automobiles. Who the hell knows? But when it comes to House of Cards, especially that first season with Zoe and Slugline that she starts up, said it's really incredible. That's why I think this is the coziest thing. Here's one character who is just her and her laptop in her apartment writing, because she's got one of the best placed sources in the United States government that is feeding it to her.
Yeah.
And she's working it. However, there's the sexual tension thing going on there, but she's getting information and she's getting to the scoop before all of these veterans are. And so it really makes you wonder, going back to even like Watergate, how did this newbie have the story of the century?
Well, let's think about it, right? Like somebody that's brand new, whereas somebody that's kind of your grizzled veteran, they're going to vet a story. They're not going to believe it. They're going to want more sources. They're going to want more background. Whereas somebody that's brand new, well, shoot, man, they don't care where it comes from. This is the thing that could make their career. So I think they're going to have less scruples on what's happening, and they're just going to go for it.
Yeah. And sometimes they get burned by it, and other times they become famous, like Bob Woodward, and just become famous. And then you become the one-trick pony. You're just constantly doing media tours, talking about all your time. With Watergate, it's like
I don't know, man. I'm the Roman Empire guy, so I don't have much to say. Like, I'm trying to turn everything into the Roman Empire right now, so I can't say much.
It's good. That's all right. It's different. That's different. Roman Empire falling into the earth. That's thousands of little scandals over 1,000 years. You're talking about a one snapshot in American history, the Watergate scandal. Even though if you study it in the right way, it unlocks every other thing that was done in its name.
Well, I think too, like the book All the President's Men as well, like in the movie. if you kind of look at a lot of the ways that the movie was filmed, they were trying to allude to everything being a White House source the whole time. And Mark Felt turns out to be the deputy FBI director. You have to wonder, how much did these people actually know, and when did they know it? Because somebody knew. Was it Woodward just lying about who his source was, and he actually knew it was the deputy director all the time? That's the thing you have to wonder. Like, who's obfuscating here?
Yeah. Who is obfuscating? Here's a little something, just a little off topic, but I just wanted to throw it out there. And let me just put the lineup: 914-200-0269. Call in. We'd love to hear from you. Again, anything you want to talk about. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow night? Do you believe? Are we finally in consensus that the social upheaval of the 1960s has nothing on what we're talking about right now and what we're dealing with everything else added on top of it, the open borders, the ducks getting their heads cut off, everything. Then we have the debate, like I said, what do you think is going to happen there? Here's another one, November 5th. What happens on November 6th? I can't wait to hear what Stone has to say about something like that. Election day doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of statements made by both sides about what they're going to do to ensure that an election happens the right way. So what we know how Democrats have been making preparations. What has the Trump team been doing to make preparations for after November 5th? Who knows? Let's take a call. 717, you're on the air. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, I'm enjoying your show so much tonight.
Oh, well, I'm happy.
Well, thank you for having Ryan on. I'm calling about how you asked a question about what it was like in the 60s.
Is it
riots and everything?
Is it still worse than 2024, or has the 21st century officially gotten worse than the 60s?
Well, I can tell you, I was looking as a child of 9 years old. I was looking out of my window, and I could see the city burning.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, I found out through my husband, who is older than I, he was a firefighter, that they had to carry shotguns on the fire trucks just to be able to go in and fight fires. But I think that what's happened is like it's intrinsic, the amount of subversions that has happened. It's like there's no difference between good guys and bad guys anymore. And in fact, really, the good guys are being marginalized.
Okay, well, that's what's one good way of adding in a new layer. There's less and less of an objective sense of what good and bad is, and who is good and bad, and who's acting with good intentions or not. So that's what. But I would have to say,
right,
that, looking out your window and seeing blocks and blocks of cities, city blocks, going up in flames because of arson or one thing or another. That's not something that has been foreign in this country over the last few years as well. So I think we have a little bit of that sprinkled in. It's something that's not unique to the 60s anymore. But thank you for the call.
Well, thank you. And all I can say is we've got to fight for free speech. Yeah. That's the bottom line. Free speech. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you. That right there, I'm glad that she said that.
It's important because that's, I think, the number one thing, if you look at it any time in history, is if we don't have the ability to talk about these things. And I think that's where you look at the internet as something really interesting, right? Because the creation of DARPA, something to create a higher level of control, and I think it backfired in some ways, where now it's giving us the ability to be more connected. And I think the fact that we have networks like Rumble out there where we can actually stream this content, 'cause I know on YouTube I'm getting crushed anymore. So the ability that we have the ability to communicate is a big deal, man.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of people out there who say things like, we've got to fight for the Republic. And they're saying it on the internet, and you say, yeah, that's a nice sentiment, but how are we fighting for the Republic? We're just all talking to each other on Twitter and whatever. Yeah. But to say that, hey, we got to fight for free speech, that's something you can That's something that you can commit to
Well,
every
that's
day.
the number one reason that I've had such a big turn in my business in the last couple of years is I got to the point where I'm like, are we promoting messages that matter? Or are we promoting ones that change the world? You know, I want to work with people that were canceled. I want to work with people that have big messages because you know what, man? Like that's the risk I can take that's actually going to change things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's one of those things that you can do, everybody can do. It's just don't hold back and don't self-censor. Let's see here. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Frank, it's Melody.
Hey, Mel. How you been?
Hey, good. I didn't catch the very first part of your show, but I was because I was driving. But I caught like the middle part, the important part.
Okay.
Hey, so I know, like you said, call in about whatever, but I just really, I guess it's a question for y'all, but I don't know. I can't imagine Kamala Harris really being able to snake out of any kind of direct question on the debate. I mean, I don't know how she's going to be able to do that. I mean, I know she's a lawyer. I know they're good at that sort of thing, but I guess, you know, there's that. The other thing I wanted to say is every day, you know, we're waking up and we're like looking at what's happening. And today, I think I reached penultimate darkness over the pets and the freaking ducks and wildlife and protected species. I think, you know what? I think I just hit the bottom today, Frank. It was that. The Haitians, it's the freaking, you know, the Haitians, they did it. Congratulations, Haitian migrants.
You brought Melody down to the she finally found rock bottom because of all the cats and everything. You know, Jeremy, Melody she spent decades with the circus.
Wow.
Barnum and Bailey. And we did a whole show talking about her life and, you know, the different things in that life on the trains and all that, the different types of acts and just life on the road in that kind of environment, in interactions with local communities, the traditions that pile up along the way, history. So if anybody has a really great perspective on how to analyze American politics, it would be someone like Melody.
It would be a circus clown for sure.
That's it.
Definitely a circus clown. We got a unique perspective. But I'm telling you, I played a gig at Springfield, Ohio, as a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, and we had to shut down at this. It was the fair there. We had to shut down our children's show, the whole deal, because a gang came in there. And I thought, you know, what a weird place for anything to be popping off. You know, it's like, what the hell? And then today I see that, but I just don't understand. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I don't understand. These, like, they're having town hall meetings with the mayor. All right, the mayor knows. Everybody knows. So what is? It's not like, oh, they showed up last night, killed all the ducks and Aunt Nina's cat. I mean, they've been there, right? We're assuming for a minute, and I just don't like. Where are the police? What's happening? And by the way, being a Texan, and this is, I swear to you, Frank, I'm about to shut up. I'm so hot-headed today, but they're like Dallas, Texas, okay, not that far from me. There's Venezuelan gangs have taken over an apartment complex there. I know where the apartment complex is. It's in North Dallas. That's Shishi Foo Foo Pinkies Uptown, okay? And I'm like, all right, Governor Abbott, they took over an apartment complex in Dallas. I know that is true. I have friends that live over there. They have said, yep, you know, they're breaking into all the cars. It's a whole deal. And what are we doing, dude?
Nothing.
Like,
nothing. Freaking
nothing.
Well, and it gets so far down the road, then, you know, it's a gradual thing that eventually they get to the point and you get, how do we get here? And they're not going to do anything about it, right? Because you don't do something once, then twice, then three times. It gets much easier to do nothing, and then it's a huge problem.
Yeah, thank you for the call, Mel. Because on that, I saw this. I don't know. It looked like a town hall meeting or something, or a city hall meeting, and it was in some place in Alabama, a place where you think, oh, red state, this that, red state, this that, sane, and it's in Alabama, and people are are showing up to this hall there, and they're trying to figure out. They're trying to voice their opinions about what's going on with recent arrivals from God knows what border, originate from what country, and how it is already clashing with local life. And they have this city hall meeting that is being shut down by the city council, accusing everybody of very well-reasoned, moderate concerns about what's going on, of being racist, of being this, that, or the other, or just finding that there's no real, there's no real standing for the concerns. Now, I see that, and I'm like, wow, okay, well, that's happening in small towns in Alabama. And then, of course, there are other people in the comments that are just like, we need President Trump so bad right now. And I had to hold myself back from commenting, what is President Trump going to do to wrestle control away from these people in a small local, small city council in Alabama? That's
a really good point, because if you think about it, he's, even with the whole Roe v. Wade thing, he was trying to bring it back to the states. Well, if he's doing what he says he would do in the presidency, it means he would have less to do with a situation like that. He's not going to like, you look at what he did during the George Floyd riots. He didn't call out the National Guard. He didn't do a lot of these different things because he wanted to leave it up to different states. So I think you're correct. Voting him in isn't going to fix these local situations. That's people fixing their towns and their cities and their whatever, because if he's being president the way he says he's going to be president, the way he has been in the past, and the way, if he's following the Constitution, he shouldn't be fixing those things.
Yeah. That's why when we had a conversation, it was maybe about a month and a half ago or so. It was a Friday night. We were talking about HOA horror stories.
I have a great HOA, by the way.
That's one, and we've had a couple people that got in touch with us and say our HOA is great. It has a very limited scope. They stay out of our hair. We love whatever. And then we've had other stories where the HOAs were like it was a nightmare. It was hell on earth. But the whole point being that when you live in that situation, whether it be under a homeowners association that's really gone sour and dictatorial, or if it's a city council, you're not looking for some authority on high to come down and make things right for you. You got to start going from house to house, whipping votes, and make sure that you change out the HOA, change rules.
The big problem with that is most people don't want to be bothered. I think that's what it comes down to, is they're just looking at it as somebody else's problem, or when is somebody going to fix this or whatever, and that's how you get in a situation like that.
Yeah, I know. Well, you'd have to imagine that when people's hearts start changing, when they start finding foreign nationals sleeping under their porch.
Well, that's what the change happens. The change happens when something happens to you, and then you start to do something about it.
Right. So that's really what it comes down to, and it's sad because it's going to start probably becoming very scary, because you growing up over the last 40 years. This is just something you thought that we'd always be immune to. Mm-hmm. And that in itself was a luxury that we were afforded on the surplus of even better times before that, because it must have all been going downhill for a while now. Let's see here. Oh, but listen to this. This is a story I saw coming around the last 12 hours or so. Somebody said, are you ready to bet on this is from the Wall Street Journal. Someone named Tariq Mansour. Do you know who that is?
Definitely not Tyreek Hill, who just got arrested yesterday, but what are you going to do?
Oh, really?
Yeah. On the way to the Dolphins game.
Really?
Yes. The video is pretty crazy.
What happened?
He was apparently speeding, and they got a little too excited. I don't want to interrupt your story, but if you get a chance, Tyreek Hill getting arrested, the video is nuts.
Really? Oh, okay. I'm going to have to look at this after that. Hold on. Here's something from the Wall Street Journal. This is from September 7, 2024. The headline is, are you ready to bet on U.S. elections? Here, watch. Are you ready to bet on U.S. elections? A judge ruling opens the door. Prediction market startup Kalshi prevails in its bid to list political contracts, beating the CFTC. Now, here is what's interesting about this, and this was taken up. This is taken up. Kalshi just legalized. This is what Tariq Mansour says. And then it was retweeted by DC Drano, and I want to read what they said. Just legalize trading on elections in the U.S. For the first time in 100 years, Americans will have access to legal election markets at scale. Historic moment for financial markets. Now, here's the other thing. DC Drano goes and puts a little amendment to that. Says, this is huge. Let me get up on the screen with you. Americans now invest. They can now invest in election outcomes, essentially. Not only are these money markets more accurate than rigged polls, but now there is much stronger legal framework to file lawsuits against election fraud. If someone loses millions of dollars because of a rigged election, courts will hear their case like they would any securities fraud case. No more BS dismissals based on lack of standing like we saw in 2020. They have direct financial loss and damage from the rigged election. There's a reason Biden tried to keep this illegal as long as possible, but the courts overruled him. It's huge, just huge, he says. Now, I don't know if there's any other way of looking at this situation that kind of puts a wet blanket on all that excitement.
Yeah.
But that caught my eye.
Yeah. That seems really interesting because, now anybody I think would have standing in this point in time because they're trying to say, oh, this state doesn't or that state doesn't or this attorney general can't do anything. But if it is actually a business, now here's what I would want to know. Who owns those markets? Is it a Chinese company? Is it a, private-public partnership? That's what I would want to know. I would want to know what the ownership looks like in that company because at the same time, who's to say they're not going to skew markets then to just ensure everything that they're doing? So it could go the other way too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... I would like to know more about this. I really would like to know more about this because I see a lot of people getting really excited about it, and I don't know. Okay, you can call in again, 914-200-0269. Here's a funny story. Headline, State Senator forced Chief of Staff to perform sex acrobatics.
Acrobatics?
Again, as very athletic, people over here who have trained and been in the body movement profession for a while, I want to just wonder about what the hell's happened here. Sex acrobatics that left him with back and hip injuries.
Wow.
Dude. Okay. This woman right there. A California state senator forced a former staffer to do sexual favors for her while she was his boss as part of a quid pro quo relationship that left him riddled with back and hip injuries.
Jesus.
Like, what? I swear there's no details in here. It's all I care about. What the hell were they doing? Senator Marie Alvarado Gilles, former chief of staff Chad Condit, slapped her with the lawsuit last week alleging the lawmaker, a longtime Democrat who recently jumped ship to the Republican Party. That's the reason why the lawsuit happened, by the way.
Yeah.
Pressured him into performing these acts on her when they traveled for work. The married aide claims he relented and performed the acts on his boss over the years as part of a sex-based quid pro quo relationship in order to protect his job, according to the suit filed in Sacramento Superior Court. On their final encounter, Condit alleges he suffered a debilitating back injury while... wait. This is new. They must have updated this.
Ooh.
On the final encounter, Condit alleges he suffered a debilitating back injury while having to twist and contort as he performed orals on the senator in a car, leaving him with 3 herniated discs and a collapsed hip. What?
How did he do that?
Now, listen, anything you do in a car is not comfortable, obviously, but
how did you
3 herniated
collapse
discs
your hip?
A collapsed hip.
Is the guy like 7'5"? That's the only way I can see this happening. I used to work for a house painter in high school, college, and grad school, and we painted the house one time for this guy that used to manage Aerosmith.
Okay.
And he told us this story. Once again, I don't know how much credence he put in this, but he told us this story that one time Steven Tyler staying at this hotel, and he called the front desk and he says, "There's a hole in my ceiling." So they bring the person and take a look. Sure enough, there's a hole in the ceiling. So they move Steven to another room. A little while later, they get a call. "There's a hole in my ceiling." So they go check it out. There's a hole in Steven's ceiling again. Next room they move him to, is a room with a camera in it. So they go in. Steven calls the front desk to say there's a hole in his ceiling. They find out he had been setting up like a sex chair into the ceiling, and he wasn't mounting it properly, and it was pulling the ceiling down every time he was mounting it.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! He was he like missed the stud.
Yeah.
He missed the stud. He was putting it right into sheetrock,
and he was just ripping the ceiling down.
Oh my gosh! See, that's what I thought. I thought that this is where it was going, but
no, in a car.
Acrobatic. I don't know.
It doesn't sound acrobatic to me. I was expecting something more impressive.
No, I'm going to have to look into the court records on this one. I'm going to save this. I'm going to star this. See what happens with that lawsuit, and I hope that there's court records that I can jump in on. Anyway, yeah. Now here's a little something. I want to throw some extras in since we're doing pretty well. We have a little bit less than a half hour left. The phone lines are still open. When I had my history professor, Lawson Bowling, on the show about a week or two ago, we were talking about things like World War II. We were talking about there's a little bit that popped up along the way on whatchamacallit, the internment camps that were set up here in the United States, not only with the Japanese, but German Americans, Italians. I had mentioned the DiMaggios on the show because I said that Joe DiMaggio. Oh no, it was the next night with. It was the next night that I was talking with Donald Jeffries. And we were talking about internment. We were talking about just government action gone sour and all that stuff. And I had mentioned how Joe DiMaggio's family, they're from San Francisco, fishermen, and they had their fishing boats commandeered, taken away, confiscated, during the war. Now, what I didn't know is that they weren't. This is what I got the next day from my history professor, Professor Bowling. He said, "Frank, I've been listening to some of the show. Regarding Joe D's parents, they were citizens of Italy who had never taken out U.S. citizenship when the U.S. entered the war. Therefore, by definition, they were enemy aliens. Indeed, several hundred Italian citizens living in the U.S. were interned, and citizens of other enemies too. I am not at all aware of any U.S. citizens of any background except Japanese, of course, having been interned. As enemy aliens, ironically, the DiMaggio parents were, like other enemy aliens, subject in California to a curfew, meaning they could not eat at their son's restaurant in San Francisco. You cannot understand DiMaggio's popularity in 1941 during the hitting streak. I trust you've heard the popular song written about him during that time." And that was signed Lawson. And I know. 1941, DiMaggio, during the hitting streak. I mean, this was the
Joltin' Joe DiMaggio song?
My grandparents would still sing the Joe DiMaggio song for me in the 90s.
Yeah.
I remember my grandfather, there's only a couple of times that I saw him, become solemn and even well up with tears. Obviously at my grandmother's funeral services, he was just broken up, and I'm sure he had a lot of times alone where that ate him up. But Joe DiMaggio's funeral, I think it was like 95 or something like that. Joe DiMaggio's funeral, that was something that got him. And you never understand that stuff. You never understand it, especially
it's
cultural.
As a kid. Imagine when something eventually happens to Derek Jeter, what the effect that's going to have on guys like us.
And I was thinking about that. I don't know. I mean, maybe if it's one of those things where it makes me reflect on all the time that's been gone and what the 90s really were like growing up. But I don't know if Derek Jeter comes even anywhere close to what someone like Joe DiMaggio meant to the nation at a time, or a Babe Ruth meant to the American culture at a time.
Well, I don't think, at least for me, I don't think I had anyone like that growing up. Like, there was nobody other than maybe Michael Jordan, which maybe that'll be a strange thing when that eventually happens.
Yeah, I know. Hey, James Earl Jones,
Darth Vader, it's all over.
I'm gonna have to go home and watch The Sandlot again. Mr. Myrtle, why don't you knock on the door? I'd have gotten it for you. Nah, I don't know. So I wanted to throw that in because it was a nice little extra. What else do I have here?
You got to look up Tyreek Hill.
Oh,
look
let me
up
at
the
that.
traffic stop, man. It's pretty outrageous. and then his teammate Calais Campbell tries to like get out and at least like mediate between them, so then the cops arrest him.
All right. Body cam footage of Tyreek Hill and Calais Campbell. Detainment Sunday has been released.
Oh, it's nuts.
All right. Let me see. Is this the...
There's the phone video is pretty good too. People driving by.
All right. Hold on a second.
So then my friend texted me after. He's like, Tyreek Hill, 130 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 arrest.
Oh, no. Okay. Body cam footage. This is from Robert Griffin III. Oh, RGB. No, RGB.
RG3.
RG3.
Yeah, your seatbelt on. I wonder like that.
Hold on.
Like what? Why you have it up?
Wait a second. So he's heading to the stadium?
He's on it. He's right out front. This is right out front of the stadium. The stadium's right behind him.
Hey, keep your window down. Hey, keep your window down. Keep your window down. I'm gonna get you out of the car. As a matter of fact, get out of the car. Give me your ass, bro. Get out of the car. Give me your ass. We'll break that freaking window. Get out of the car. Get out of the car right now. We're not playing this game. Get out. 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 What part of law don't you understand? Hey, Drew. Hey, Drew. I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting arrested.
Drew Rosenhaus.
I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting out, bro. God damn, twin. When we tell you to do something, you do it. You understand? I'm getting out. You understand? Not what you want, but what we tell you.
This is fucked up.
Yeah.
This is totally fucked up.
Very much so.
What the fuck, man?
You got the other camera angle is crazy. Of the people actually like doing cell phone cameras driving by.
You're a little fucking confused. I'm getting out, bro. Too late. Chill, bro. Too late. All right, bro. Take me to jail, bro. Do what you gotta do, bro. We are. We will. Good, bro. It is good. Hey, Drew. Hey. Don't worry about it. I hung up the phone. You stop crying. Bro. Y'all. Don't move.
It sounds like he's getting arrested in Venezuela.
Yeah.
Damn, man.
And it was like, I don't know what the exact infraction was, but the descriptions have been a minor traffic infraction. So I don't even know like how fast he was speeding or whatever he might have been doing. But I don't think it warranted that.
No, I don't. Let me see. I'm gonna have to see what the hell else. I mean, just from what we saw, we got to see what the hell else is what's going on there. But damn, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand he didn't have his windshield. His.
Well, because he was calling his agent, is what it sounds like.
Oh, okay.
Drew Rosenhaus is. He's saying Drew Rosenhaus is his agent.
Okay. Oh, I see him rolling his window up.
So he's probably calling his agent first to get his agent to get his lawyer.
And this is right outside the stadium.
Literally right out front of the stadium.
Man. Well.
And he played too, which is wild. This was like an hour before game time.
Okay. Sounds good.
They already put a couple of the officers on leave, I think, too.
Hey, is Roger Stone live right now? Or is this a rerun that was aired?
It's got to be a rerun. I wouldn't see how he would. Dude, that would to be spurned like that.
No, you can't. You can't. That would be too bold.
No, to be spurned like that, man.
That would be too bold. I'm just going to believe that it's a pre-recorded episode that has been aired now.
I think it is too, because he's streamed a couple episodes I've done with him live, and it hasn't actually been live. So
okay.
I hope that's the case.
That's it. That's it. Okay, well, let's see here. I have a couple more things in the super chats. Running on empty. It says, I think we're alone now. One of my favorite Tommy James songs. Are you serious?
That's Tommy James too. Is this one of these people that we know like a lot of songs by him, and we have no idea who sings them?
It's got to be.
I like the Weird Al version better, by the way.
Oh yeah, well,
I think I'm a clone now.
I think I'm a clone now. One of my favorite Tommy James songs. Also, Aurora doing the intermission dance is the best. Makes my heart so happy. Thanks, Frank. Great show as usual. Yeah, well, I did a little bit of tidying up on the intermission. I changed up some of the verbiage, and we're getting ready to really. I mean, there's a lot of creative direction work that's going on behind the scenes right now. I think you're really going to like the rebrand, Jeremy.
I'm excited, man.
I think
I'm excited.
Especially since
From
you're
what you've told me about it, I'm excited about it.
All in on the brands, you know, how people build it and all that. And I'm just looking into 2025 as a
We got to think long term. I think too. I love the cyberpunk look though. It's cool.
It is. But hey.
There's a lot of people doing it now too, though. So I think it's not a bad idea to kind of put your flag in the sand.
I loved it for as long as it could be loved, but yeah, you're just once you start becoming one of every, cork bobbing in the ocean. What?
In fact, if you see my show intro, it's very cyberpunk influenced.
Oh, I don't hold anything. I don't hold it against anybody. It's great.
Yeah.
I love this the synthwave, the reemergence of synthwave as a kind of like a retro electronica sound. I love it. I think that's it's still one of the more. All the wave genres. Chill wave. So you ever listen to Akira the Don?
No.
Okay, he's a buddy of mine, and he goes and takes things like Marcus Aurelius. He'll take Alan Watts or anything like that, and he'll incorporate them into these electronic compositions. He's a DJ.
Oh wow!
Really awesome. So some people have really helped establish new frontiers. And
hey, I think it all comes back to Pink Floyd, man.
You think so?
Oh my! Have you ever actually seen like a live show? I've seen Roger Waters before, dude. It's an experience, man.
No, I've never seen a live show of theirs.
It's the laser lights and everything. Like they have their show is an experience, lasers and all sorts of things. It's super cool.
See, that's what I'm taking into consideration.
There's a band that comes around this area. They're called The Machine. And they go up to Poughkeepsie a lot, and they go to a lot of areas around here. I've seen them probably 10 times, and they do a Pink Floyd show, which you would think it's Pink Floyd. It's that good.
I can appreciate a really good cover band these days.
Yeah.
We're gonna need them because all the great bands are just like retiring or dying.
I was in the car with a friend the other day, and he goes, "Man, how come Tom Petty hasn't put anything out recently?" I'm like, "Because he died."
Yeah, he's dead, man. But to that point, we had a town day. We had a Portchester day. The town council of the arts put on a big thing at the park a few weeks ago, and it was music all day long. And from 7:30 to 9:30, it was headlined by a Tom Petty experience.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so they're playing Petty all night. I waited all night for Free Fallin'. So I don't know too much, but hey,
I still think that Fruit of the Loom should have went with Free Ballin' for an underwear commercial.
That would have been good.
Yeah,
that would have been good. If they were doing a lot more. If it wasn't American commercials, they probably would have. They get away with a lot. At least they used to get away with a lot with all those commercials in Europe.
Oh, Europe's wild, man.
Yeah. And there's archives now, too. I found a couple of great YouTube channels that archive, commercial archives, especially the drug archives. The drug commercials.
From America?
Yeah.
There's one recently. Oh, gosh, I can't remember what the drug was, and it's this lady dancing around for diabetes medication or something like that, and I'm like, I think there's some other things she might be able to do to handle her diabetes first before we jump on the drugs. Just saying.
My A1C.
That one, yeah, I hate that commercial.
What the hell was it called?
It was on during every football game. Oh my gosh.
I brought it up. I brought it up on the show. I'm forgetting.
It was like, I'm in love with da-da-da-da-da-da, something like that. Anyway.
She's dancing around.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? If you danced more like this, you wouldn't.
Zumba. We'd be in good shape.
That's it. You use the front step. I don't know. There's so many things. I was watching a lot of old commercials, like old fast food commercials the other night. Hold on. I actually sent it because that's gonna be part of the rebrand.
There's an Instagram account that does that. There was one they pulled up a Pizza Hut commercial of Donald Trump in the 90s.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Let me see. Oh, the Donald Trump Pizza Hut ones are great.
Oh, they're really good. Where he's like, I'm gonna make a deal.
Those commercials, they manage to make the food seem so damn good. I don't know. I was watching television yesterday for a little bit when the Cowboys were on, and there was, I don't know, some sort of a fast food thing, chicken. They're showing all their chicken, all the different types of glazes for the chicken. And I was looking at it, it's like, this looks like shit.
You talking about how they actually make the commercials?
Well, no, the commercials themselves.
Oh.
Like get the spicy chicken, the honey glazed chicken, and these little nuggets. And I think I know what it is.
Oh, is that the Wendy's one where they're doing like the naked nugs or where the heck it is now with the sauce on the outside?
Something like that.
It's like just kind of buffalo wings rebranded.
And they just look like they're just so covered in these sauces, and which is not bad. I like things that are saucy, but I know the breadcrumb to chicken ratio on these strips now are terrible.
What about the chicken to chicken ratio on the strips?
Yeah, exactly. Like I was actually talking to my daughter today. I had made, because my wife made chicken bites for Aurora today, and she actually cut up the chicken. She breaded it with stuff like different types of things, just so even the strips are not out of the bag or whatever. And I thought it was so great. I was eating it, and I was saying my last experience with Popeye's chicken popped up in my head. Last time I ever ate Popeye's chicken was like 2022. It's when I like their chicken strips.
I've never had Popeye's chicken.
I realized in 2022 that they've not only cut down on the ratio of chicken to breadcrumbs, but the chicken itself, it was just awful. Oh,
that's why I can't do Wingstop. Like you go to Wingstop and you kind of like, where's the wing?
I made a lot of changes since 2022.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I would just, it doesn't make sense anymore. Let's see, here is an Aquafresh commercial. Here.
What's this, some crazy new invention? No, it's the new Aquafresh see-through pump. Look, it's easier to pump and has a special no-mess.
I always used to think that, I want, look at that wonderful.
How did they do that? It's wonderful.
The color. But then you grow up and you say, okay, yeah, obviously that was just commercial placement, but could you ever put all of that toothpaste in your mouth?
No. Have you ever watched how they actually make like the look of things on a commercial, like with like adding glue to the cheese and all sorts of weird stuff they do?
And all the steam from the heat, it's not steam, it's just like dry ice.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you've ever watched a food photography commercial, or a video, it's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I've seen it. They'll put, it was actually a long time ago. I saw where they took, for example, the French fries. Mm-hmm. And it would be uncooked French fries, but they were painted in a way that they look golden brown and delicious. And they, underneath the French, they would actually insert toothpicks, and they would place them into like styrofoam and stuff like that that's packed inside of the cup. So you can get the perfect, tall, standing, glorious golden brown shot of these fries that are otherwise all just, slumped over in every direction. So they're just perfectly placing them with toothpicks, and then comes in the smoke, the steam. I said, wow. But still, there's that. What's it? The Story of Aerosmith? No. The 1988 Toyota Tercel.
It's so easy to own Tercel. It's so easy.
The 1988 Toyota Tercel EZ. The price will take you right back to the 50s. Only $59.98. Reliable Toyota Tercel with a price dialed down to the 50s. Right now, power and zip, contemporary up-to-the-minute style, good old 50s price.
Tercel, who could ask for anything more? Toyota.
Oh.
Is that one of those like 3 cylinders?
Whoa, stop it. Was that?
Is that one of those like 3 cylinders?
It had to be. If you see a 1988 Toyota Tercel still out there today, it has survived so much shit. It is probably the most depressed car.
Is that what's going to be left at the end of the world? Cockroaches, Twinkies, and Toyota Tercels?
Yes, please. it would have to be. It would have to be.
You were talking about food. I was trying to find the name of the movie. There's a documentary that Morgan Spurlock, who actually just died not long ago, the Super Size Me guy.
Yeah.
He did a documentary called Holy Chicken. And if you have you ever seen it? No?
No.
Yes. If you get a chance to watch it, I think it's on Prime. He goes into like the chicken industry and like how they grow their chickens, and like apparently these chickens grow so fast and have such big breasts they just fall over because their legs don't work. And they show like how they come up with the chicken sandwich ideas. So they get into like the industry, and it's kind of scary, man. It really makes you want to. They get into the definition of words too, like what free range means. Like means like that a door is open and they can see outside even though they don't walk outside. So it's really, really interesting because it helps you to at least like shop a little bit better when you're thinking about what food looks like.
And also, even though I've been reading, because I don't eat the fast food anymore, but I've been reading about the prices that people are starting to see even on dollar menu items. I think that there's still a dollar menu, but you think about what materials a company like McDonald's would need to put into this food to actually keep it at $1. Now you can say that overpricing something else gives you the leeway to keep the price of something on this particular menu down a little bit more because you're making the surplus somewhere else. You work those things around, but where things are right now, to make things cheap, there's got to be some space age shit. It's got to be space age. Like you talking about those chickens with the
it's
breasts.
wild, and they tend to have a lot of heart attacks because like you can eat them by the time they're 3 months old because they just grow so fast. They're like a full grown.
Did they say what exactly makes it happen?
They're genetically modified, however the heck they do it, and it's just they grow so fast that they'll grow tumors, and they have a lot of heart attacks, and they tend to tip over when they're walking because their feet don't develop.
That's probably what I tasted in that. Like what all of these like fat deposits in some of that chicken. It's like nope, never again.
Holy Chicken's the name of the documentary. If you get a chance to watch it.
Holy Chicken.
It's kind of scary.
Here you go, Burger King, 1988. Wait.
If people really like the taste of fried burgers, how come everyone doesn't have backyard frying pans instead of backyard barbecues? Why aren't there porta fries for the beach, tailgate fryers for the game, or public frying pans? Maybe the way you really do it is the way you like it. Flame broiled. Think about it. Over a juicy flame broiled Whopper.
We do it like you do it when we do it like we do it at Burger King.
Imagine if it was actually that big.
Look at that.
That is a big sandwich.
I know, and I remember when I ordered my first Whopper. When I ordered my first, or I actually no, when I saw somebody order a Whopper for the first time, it's my buddy Mike. It looked so huge, and to hold the Whopper as a kid, you're like, this is impossible, and then you realize it's not that. It's actually it's a mess, but it's not big. It's not that big. I mean, maybe it was that big at one time.
Chick-fil-A still does a good job. Like if you get their stuff, it's a lot of pretty good food. Though I had their chicken wrap not long ago, and there's not very much chicken on it.
Really?
Yeah,
I've never had Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A is really good, and it's I think it's like the fastest growing fast food restaurant in the country right now.
I'd give it a shot.
And for the most part, you can get a pretty decent chicken breast sandwich there.
Really? Mm-hmm. Do they do like?
And they're closed on Sundays.
They observe, huh?
They do.
Good for them. Do they? Okay.
My wife's always upset if we're on a road trip on the Sunday because she loves Chick-fil-A.
Well, it's okay if you're on a road trip. That's when you have Roy Rogers.
That or Rutt's Hut.
There must be like 3 Roy Rogers left. It's all on I-95. I don't know. That or Waffle House, but I stay away from those, especially during the day. Well, actually at nighttime.
Oh, you could see some stuff if you go to Waffle House, though, man.
Yes.
You want to. It's like walking into Walmart during the day. You can see some stuff.
I would go there no later than 1 p.m. and only under the most dire circumstances. But I used to love Waffle House. That used to be. That's when whenever we would like drive down to Myrtle Beach, we knew that we were getting into the South. Once we saw our first Waffle House, like, oh, we're in Virginia, you know. But I am a dude.
You ever done south of the border when you go down 95?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I've been there quite a few times. Not recently though. During those road trips in the late 90s when we first started going down to the Carolinas for vacation. But Cracker Barrel, I love Cracker Barrel. I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for Cracker Barrel.
My parents still think Cracker Barrel is like it's like, I don't know how to explain this. My parents think going to Cracker Barrel or Applebee's is like a big night out. Like they just, it was our anniversary 2 days ago, and they just got us a Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. So, you know.
you know what the funny thing was? One year, not only did we go on vacation, we actually had a couple of different meals at a Cracker Barrel because it was right near the hotel. We said, hey, let's do it. Let's do a lunch or a dinner there one night. Maybe we do a breakfast, but like usually have like a breakfast or a lunch. We'll get like 2 in. But the second time we went there, I actually did most of my Christmas shopping in that Cracker Barrel store, man, because it's not like everything is like a Cracker Barrel shirt or anything like that. They actually just have a really cool store.
Yeah.
And they got all of like this retro stuff. Like you can buy like, Battleship board games and things like retro within the retro boxes and stuff and things like that. So you know what? Well, a whole bunch of shit.
Well, my parents just retired a couple years ago, so they're snowbirds now. They drive to Florida. They're getting ready to go in a couple weeks. And they hit specific Cracker Barrels on the way down, and they stay only at Days Inns on the way down. So I guess those are the things you do.
That's the thing to do. Cracker Barrel will never turn you away, man. There's always a friendly face at a Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, country fried steak.
That's it. Okay, so Jeremy Ryan Slate, where are you going to be next? You're a very busy man. You got you're spinning quite a few plates these days, but what do you have coming up on your show, and where should people watch you?
Yeah, well, they can check me out over at jeremyryanslate.com, or if they want to check out our company, we're over at commandyourbrand.com. And, we've got a bunch of Roman Empire episodes coming out. I was excited that we were supposed to have one coming out on Tom Bilyeu's Impact Theory, but they actually have rescinded the invitation. We don't know what I did, but apparently I did something. So just continue to put some cool Roman Empire episodes out there.
Damn. Okay. Well, hopefully that all works out.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. I don't get a lot of invitations in general. Thankfully, I was just on with Charlie Robinson today. That's gonna be a good one. Mel K.
I was on Mel K's show this past week. She's awesome.
Yeah, and she's another one that works so damn hard. Mm-hmm. Like you can tell. That's why I asked if you batch record your episodes, because it seems like Mel like records maybe a couple a day.
I know Seth Holhouse is the guy that does Man America. He does that.
Yeah, it's smart.
Yeah,
I'm just a glutton for the thrill of doing things live and anything.
You're a risk taker, man, because then sometimes you get nights like tonight.
I know. But you know what? I've had so many nights like tonight that you just learn how to muscle through it.
Yeah.
And thankfully you were in studio, because if both of you guys were
both got laryngitis in the same time in different locations
within 25 minutes, I probably would have done maybe a 60-minute call-in show, and that would be it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta roll with it the best you can. But tonight, I think it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
I always love having you back. And you know what? Whenever we get Roger rescheduled, I know it's a little bit of a drive, but I'd love to have you back.
Hey, man, I'll always come out for your show.
Okay. Wonderful. On quitefrankly.tv, there's a couple of more super chats real quick. Nat Hendy, thank you so much. Thank you, Nat Hendy. Sean Joe just gifted a 6-month bronze tier subscription, and Witchy Poo just picked it up. You understand what that means, ladies and gentlemen? That's why I say if you go watch on quitefrankly.tv, if you want to become a sponsor but you don't have the money at the moment, you can probably pick up free subscriptions just lying around constantly. Witchy Poo just became a sponsor of the show for the next half a year.
These names are amazing, by the way.
Yeah, that's it. So for the next 6 months, Witchy Poo will get all the links delivered to her for Sunday Stream, for Book Club.
The
newsletter, all of that. Are you on the mailing list for the newsletter?
I am not, but I've heard you talk about the newsletter.
Okay. Gonna have to figure this out somehow.
I am a listener as well as a guest.
Well, because you got to be able to. I would love to have you contribute some stuff to it too.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Yeah, but I would launch just some history, some good stuff. All right, Nina Rock says Tom Petty, the soundtrack of my life. Thank you, Delona, for the 3 cookies. Captain Flint said, when I was young, I cut open a tube of Aquafresh. Dad was mad, had to use it out of the Tupperware. No regrets. Did it look that beautiful, the green, white, and red? I don't know.
You want to get terrified, watch how they packaged a lot of that stuff.
Really? The tube things, they make me weird.
All right, so you've got a toddler-age child.
Yeah.
Look up how they make those food packs our kids love so much. It's terrifying.
See, that's what Lauren brought up recently. First, those food packs, you can find good brands and all that stuff, but there is so much like, hey, it gets moldy on the inside. You got to watch out.
No, not even that. Like, watch how they make them in the machines. It's kind of scary.
Really?
Yes.
Fuck. Damn, they're really convenient snacks.
My wife is very against them now.
They're very convenient. Like I remember when Aurora was still, having them every once in a while, we'd always squeeze out the top just so that the top, whatever is near the spout of it all is gone. But I don't know. Some have better reputations than others. Captain Flint, thank you. Delona, thank you for that last cookie. All right, well that's it for tonight. I really appreciate you all, and tomorrow is another day, so I'll see you for Tuesday. Be here 7:00. And follow Jeremy Ryan Slate, JeremyRyanSlate.com, right?
JeremyRyanSlate.com, and I'm Jeremy Ryan Slate on X and all platforms.
That's it. Go check him out, and I will talk to you guys soon. Good night.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Quite Frankly is filmed before a live studio audience. And now, our Super Chatters. Starting with Running on Empty and Jay Britz. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.